My guest joining me for the news review this morning is Professor Isaac Boadi. He's a Dean, Faculty of Accounting and Finance at UPSA. And I also have Professor Michael Ayamga. He's Deputy CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority, and he's also an applied economist. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. In fact, not gentlemen, professors. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Siti.
Yeah. Professor Ayamga, we haven't seen you in a while, so I want to start with you. Usually we give our guests a couple of minutes to share their reflections with us in terms of any topical issue that has caught your attention. What's on your mind this morning?
Of course, it can't be anything but
the budget.
The budget. And
yeah.
It was heartwarming to see how far we have come from the first budget that the Honorable Minister of Finance presented. We were looking at a situation where we were paying almost 5.2% of our GDP to debt that has been recklessly accrued over the last 8 years. And many of us were worried that if we had to use that quantum of our GDP just to service debt, then how are we going to maintain our infrastructure? How are we going to stimulate the real sector to produce and to create the needed jobs that we had? But I was particularly excited yesterday that one figure that struck me was the fact that even in terms of our deficit, government was overperforming its own target by some 110%, just about 0.7% against a target deficit of 1.8%. So I was extremely excited, and it underscored what the president said at the time, that our economy was not just suffering from external shocks, but it was actually suffering from criminal mismanagement. The outlook hasn't changed much in terms of global disturbances and some issues that affect our economy. What has changed is a system that is modest, looking at cost savings, and also working to ensure that there are no leakages in our economy. So going forward, I believe that we have the numbers that excite us, but how do we build on these numbers and make sure that we are transforming them into some of the best deliverables for our people? So that is what I think, and I say kudos to the president, and the Honorable Kessler Tuforsen continues to dumbfound many of us economists. We don't understand what is going on. All some can say is it's not sustainable. But why is it not sustainable? After 7 months, if we are still where we are, I think we need to get on board, be optimistic, and take the bold steps to push the economy on a higher pedestal. Yeah.
I'm sure we'll come back to this topic again because it's all over in the newspapers. But I want to hear your thoughts, Professor Boadi, in terms of any reflections, but I also know that this is also in your purview, so perhaps you want to reflect on this for us?
I was going to
go somewhere else. Please feel free.
Well, I think I still have to go through the budget discussions. And good morning to Prof, and to you as well, and to your cherished viewers. This morning, I don't think any other media outlets will talk about any other issues apart from the budget. A colorful event. Within the law, the minister had no option than to come to Parliament House, deliver and give an account of the economy. And if you look at the entire document, academically, it was a well-structured document, less editorial flaws. I'm sure for now, most of the documents we are seeing from the NDC administration in terms of the quality documents, superb. Reader-friendly, there are charts presented, paragraphs, everything nicely packaged.
Right.
But then, economically, I see early signs of highlights of micro improvements in macroeconomic indicators. For instance, inflation down from, I think, 23% to 13%. Interest rates from, I think, 23 or so, or 28, all the way to 14. Gross international reserves from 8.9 billion to a double digits to about 11. Then CD appreciation almost at 42%. Then if you take the last, I think, indicator, forgotten that indicator, about 5 or so indicators are showing an upward trend. So on a whole, It was a good event. Minority walked out. I mean, they were right within the laws of Parliament that governs the Parliament House. They walked out, staged a walkout. But let me also digress a bit and indicate that as Ghanaian, I had my expectations.
Okay.
Whether my expectations were met is something that we can discuss. We're not finished today. I was expecting the minister to give us a snapshot of the physical performance and policy adjustments. Two things. And he delivered. But there's one thing I was not too sure, but I saw that in a document. About 96 pages document, and in terms of points, about 500 and something points in terms of statements. The minister devoted about 8 pages bashing previous administration. At a point, I thought I was on a political platform where the minister used almost from point 1 to 29. If you have the document, you can check. Instead of focusing on policy directions, what a country should do, you spend all the time, about 8 pages, to bash the previous administration. I don't know whether it was just to let the public know where they picked the country from. But at least when you inherit any economy, you should know some measures have been put in place first before you take off. And I can give you several accounts of the previous administration, what they have done, what they did, that give you this success that we are talking about.
Right.
So if for no reason, you give some credit to the previous administration in terms of reforms that they did. In terms of reserves, I was talking about reserves, from 8 point something to about 11. It wasn't just a fluke. So I think sometimes there's a need to to give credence to some policies channeled by a previous administration. Right. And we'll be fair with our comments and analysis. But we can take care of the rest of the major issues in the budget later.
I mean, now that we've started, we have to stay on it.
Oh.
So I'll come back to you. Professor Yamga, do you share in his opinion that he spent too much time bashing the erstwhile administration? And also, do you think the minority walking out on on the entire event yesterday to petition various stakeholders and presidential arms of the branches of the executive, did it overshadow the beautiful ceremony, like Prof said, that happened in Parliament?
Yes, I think that was a blot and a dent on our democracy. I can understand, given the shout on the finance minister the last time he presented the budget that he should solve the problem. I think the finance minister came yesterday to Parliament with a solution to the problem and was going to look them in the face and tell them that you said I should solve the problem. I have solved it. I am in the course of actually delivering some of the most remarkable economic performance in our democratic history. And the minority couldn't take that. Secondly, as Prof rightly said, and I've always disagreed with anyone that thinks that we should whitewash or push under the carpet the gross economic mismanagement that this country has been subjected to. And I said here the last time that there is a whole book in the Bible called Lamentations. And that book has been placed there to let people remember the pains they have gone through in order not to repeat them. So anyone that thinks at any point in time that devoting a significant proportion of the budget to the mistakes we made in the past and to the challenges is actually over-exaggerating or is not wanting to give credit. I look at it the other way, that solutions are generated from problems, and anyone who runs from problems cannot claim to be preferring solutions. Yes, I agree that it wasn't from ground zero. Some successes were chalked. That has always been acknowledged. But we can't still run away from the fact that there are huge problems that we are still confronted with. And I just said here that if any country is required to use 5% of its GDP in servicing debts, you can't say we should overlook that.
Okay.
And so, I'm also surprised that you are not talking of policies. I myself, I said yesterday that I am not excited that we should look at these numbers and just strap them across the media and do nothing about it. I want to see how we transform these into deliverables. And I was happy about the finance minister stating his effort to get the freeze on funding of these projects and to get many of the projects that stalled to come on board. I am particularly worried anytime I go home and I see that the Boku Bridge that leads to my hometown, Zuarungu, is almost at a standstill, and people are struggling in the night to navigate those dangerous portions. So I was happy to see many of these roads back on track. I was excited to see that there is some 13.7 billion for the big push agenda that the president announced. And that is actually a long miles away from the challenges we had. Not only did we accumulate huge arrears, we stopped projects, didn't pay contractors. The mismanagement was to the extent that we had a payroll that was bloated by some 70,000 separated and ghost names. And these were leading to serious hemorrhage in our economic system.
That it was within the finance minister's
It was within the finance minister's right.
What they have come
Any day he does not present this problem and present any budget, I will personally have a problem with him. Because not only do I tell the public, I tell my children that this is where our country was. And we need to be awake to that reality. Let's not hide from it.
But Prof, would there come a time where the finance minister is speaking to us or giving us updates on the state of the nation, and we don't have to go back to visit how bad it was when they took over? Considering we are over 6 months into this administration, do we still need to keep hammering on how bad the situation was? Considering that you say you have the solutions now, should you just go in and do it?
No, it's reality check.
Yeah?
Reality check is looking at where you are and where you are going. Every year we celebrate our birthdays. We take stocks.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us that to count our blessings
Does it
one
end
by
at
one.
some point?
It ends at some point. And I think
But
that even the minister has watered it down a lot. What he just presented is something that is expected in any budget, any day, that you recap the previous year. The previous year is just last year. Is it not hypocritical for anybody to think that the minister shouldn't refer us to just last year?
All right.
So I don't see it that way.
Thank you. Professor Boadi, I'll come to you in a bit. I want to introduce my third guest. We have in the studio Dr. Benny Asha. He's a political analyst and also a lecturer at UPSA. Doc, welcome to the program. Okay, so I'll come back to you in a bit. I just want to get Professor Boadi's concluding thoughts on this matter. So he's saying that, Professor, you've heard him. He says it's important for us to paint a clear picture of where we started, where they started from, what they had to work with, and then we can actually, accurately measure the progress that they are making. That's why we are seeing the 8-page lamentations, like you want to call it.
I like the name you give me.
Yeah.
8-page lamentations.
You started it. I'm just giving you, I'm quoting it for you nicely.
Well,
yeah.
See,
how do you respond to that?
You see, we need to be fair sometimes in what we do. When we mark student scripts and they don't even do well, we find a way to motivate the students, tell the student where the person went wrong.
Okay.
In your document that you presented, you tell the whole world that you have recorded international reserves of 8 points, from 8 point something to 11. You stated in your document of a grade, the ratings, a whole page given to ratings of this country. Now we find ourselves B+ and CCC by other bodies, 2 bodies or so. What it means is that if your rates are down because you're unable to service your debt in the financial circles or an economic world, you're not credible to be given facility. So how do you restructure those loans to be able to attain the grade that we are talking about? It was someone, debt management, that led into this. Because when you take over administration in 6 months, January to date, tell us some of the policies you have implemented that shock you, that success you are talking about. BOG reserves, we are talking about this. So about 3 important things done by the previous administration. But they had a right either to make reference to previous or not. But I'm saying one, you have to be fair with the assessment. Give
what belongs to Caesar to Caesar. That's your point. All right. So, Dr. Asha, let's hear your thoughts. Usually we give our guests a minute or two to reflect on any topical issue, but I think we started right into the mid-year budget review. What's your impression on what happened yesterday, and how would you assess the minorities' role, what they did yesterday by walking out and not sitting and listening to what the finance minister had to offer? But I want to hear your initial thoughts.
Well, thank you very much and good morning. Forgive me, my throat isn't the best.
You're all right.
Now, this is politics, and governments will take credit where they can, and they'll back away from blame where it's possible. I'm not surprised that the majority will make references to mistakes or, difficulties faced by the previous government. They have to do that so that their light will shine. But as Professor Boadi says, you cannot cherry pick what you choose. If you, in the same spirit with which you make references to the bad things that happened, you have to also give credence to where it is due. So that's the way it works, and that's the way it should work. Otherwise, then the bias is too obvious, and you want to come across as somebody who's level-headed and fair. The minority walkout is unfortunate, but again, this is politics, and politicians have to do what they have to do to get their voice heard. And you can't exactly blame them. It happens everywhere.
Okay.
So they clearly have something they disagree with, and they took the step that walking out was in the right order, so that their grievances and thoughts would be heard. And that's what they did.
Okay, so it's just politics.
Well, indeed it is.
Yeah,
indeed.
It is a political space.
Indeed.
So they did what they thought was right. Professor Ayamga, do you want to conclude on that? Because I saw you making some notes. Otherwise, I want us to get into government ditching foreign currency. I think for me that was the most interesting thing that stood out for me yesterday. The no longer dollarization of the Ghanaian city or the Ghanaian economy. I like that. But if you want to conclude on that.
Yes, I was saying that I don't see any sidestepping of the need to give credit here. The minister didn't say he took it from zero. The minister said from some 8.7 or 8.8 billion to 11.1 billion. If that is not credit, what is it? He didn't say we took it from zero. Unless you are saying that the minister shouldn't talk about the fact that they have increased our reserves by some 24.1% in 7 months, which I think is remarkable. Unless you say they shouldn't say that, then I can understand. But if you say they didn't give credit, but the minister mentioned 8.8, I don't know what else you want him to say.
Okay, this is the point where I leave the audience to judge for themselves. You be the, the judge for all of this. So this story is on the front page of Daily Graphic. Mid-year budget review, government ditches foreign currency, CD takes over in contracts. So President John Dramani Mahama has directed that no government awarded contract should be denominated in foreign currency, irrespective of the source of funding. And the policy starts immediately and is part of measures the government has instituted to curb the persistent and deep-rooted culture of dollarization in the economy, a situation which is undermining public trust and confidence in the Ghanaian city. How did this particular news come to you, Dr. Ayamga? Considering we have apartments in Accra here that are, quoted, rent is quoted in dollars, school fees quoted in dollars. There's so many things that you ask yourself, why are we in America? But let me hear your thoughts.
Yes, I think it's the last lap in actually de-dollarizing our economy, that we urge the public and the businesses not to do business in dollars, and many of our contracts and engagements were quoted in dollars. It is going to be difficult to move away from that, because if you go to maybe the international market or our creditors to take loans, they'll definitely indicate them in dollars. But domestically, we have a choice to change the narrative, our thinking. Everything you buy, we've gotten to the point that you want to even convert it to dollar when we are in an economy. But something happened earlier on when the cedi started growing. I noticed that some hotels wish they were charging in cedis. And you got there and they felt like, okay, what they were charging in dollars now is much, much less in cedis. So by the management of the economy, we have triggered that reorientation. But then we have to change the way we do our own books. It is official to do that in Parliament, and sometimes I find it worrying. Once we take dollar out, I believe that very soon we'll take the conversion calculator out of our business, and it will transform largely into some positives for us having belief in our economy. As of today, it is not profitable to keep dollars, but because of the psychology of the people, they want to keep dollars. Anytime they get a dollar, they want to keep it, whether the value is going to fall or not. That's because of the psychology. So that directive is going to go a long way in creating a system where we believe and trade with our cedi, which I think economically makes sense now. It's no longer just propaganda. It's no longer just campaign. It is wise to do business in cedis now.
But is it enough that we are only limiting this initiative to government-awarded contracts? Because I think in as much as that is where the chunk of the problem is, there's also a large number of other industries or sectors that operates this way, that if we maybe give it a blanket, not blanket necessarily, if we say that we are stopping this across board, then it's something we're starting afresh. But if you say only government-awarded contracts, people can still go ahead and quote fees and rent and other things in dollars. Is it enough? Or is it a good start?
We are in a free market economy, and you cannot change these things by fiat. What you need to do is to create the economic conditions to bring about that reorientation. And as I indicated, if you stabilize the cedi, the incentive to quote things in dollars will not happen. I remember some time back, my student wrote his answer and converted it to dollar. And I asked him, he jokingly told me that he doesn't want his answer to change the next day because the cedi was unstable. But that was a lighter note, and I think that if we stabilize the cedi, nobody will have the incentive to change to dollars. And I can see that already happening. Many of us can see it. I remember the first time I was here and I told people to ditch their dollars. Those that did continue to send me messages that I saved them millions of cedis. And I think that we've gotten to that point. What is still happening is government not actually leading the way. So yes, by law or fiat or maybe some directive, we can change government behavior in terms of the currency in which we price our contracts and our businesses. But by incentives and prudent management of the economy, we are seeing people increasingly moving to the cedi. The problem we currently have is a lot of racketeering that I see in the forex market, where we are virtually now is a place where people come to get dollars to even take them to the neighboring countries. So that one, I believe we should combine it with some level of security and surveillance of our markets. Especially, I know some not so pleasant things happen between banks and currency dealers in the black market and the others. And I believe that that is not an economic problem. That is a security problem, and the security services and the national security ought to be up and doing so that we don't let these economic gains that we are seeing get eroded by some unscrupulous people that want to benefit from this.
Professor Boadi, how do you characterize this move by governments to ditch foreign currency? And do you think it's a good start to actually really sanitize the system? Because I think that it's much more proliferated than government contracts. It's everywhere now. Everything is in dollars. But I want to hear your thoughts.
So before I even answer your question, let me debunk this. I saw something in the budget as well. The first statement of the minister said they've inherited an insolvent, I think, solvent state or insolvent states. For me, when you put some statement out there, you need to support with cross-reference statistics, proper data to indicate that we have inherited an insolvent state. He didn't provide any data from the lamentation thing that he talked about. No data to show, and we don't make such statements. The only reference I have seen happened to be the IMF or the World Bank, where they describe Ghana as debt distress only. They never, no document have ever stated of having a state in which they inherited. So let me debunk that. Then coming back to your issue, no dollarization in our contracts. In fact, I was watching the the presentation at a point in time. I had to move to somewhere to go and do other businesses. And before I left the set, I'm sure that statement he was making, that they were clapping when that thing came up, that going forward, the government has directed that any contract should not be, the dollar should not be the denominator to be used. The issue is that, is it a policy or a directive? I find it difficult to understand. And we had a whole Parliament House clapping when that statement was made. And at a point, for me, I was surprised. Who is a major spender in Ghana here? Is it me? It's the government. You award all these big contracts. You don't need to come and tell me that going forward, I should not give contracts using a dollar. It's just a statement that could be made. Simple.
But I think that's what Professor Yamba was saying, that because it is widespread across board, if we see that the government has started, or they are the ones leading that charge to de-dollarize our economy of a sort, then the other people can follow suit. So they needed to make such a statement at a time like this, so we understand that there's been a change in the climate. So you also followed suit, no?
Right.
No?
I don't get this, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because about 90–80% of contract you award. So don't tell her. You do it. Go ahead.
You'd rather not know?
No, go ahead and start the implementation from the top.
Okay.
Look, in a few days, I'll be picking something on single contract, awarded from January, from when this administration took over to date. You'll be shocked. Things that have gone in there. So I don't think it needed that platform that we should be instructed going forward. These are the things you are going to. You start and go ahead and implement. When you start, people will follow, because that space, that time the minister had, issues on 24-hour economy, it was there. Ajumara, game changers were there. So spend more time and talk about the game changers that will transform our lives. I'm not saying that it's a bad direct, it's not good for the government to direct us. But when you spend more time to talk about those things, you leave the important things that you have enshrined in your document to tell us. So when we take the entire document, then I'll tell you some of the deficiencies in there, in the policies, the key initiatives of this administration.
All right.
I was waiting to hear major things in the initiatives of this administration. Remember 24-hour economy, the Jumera, the Mahama case and all that. No proper funding guidelines were given. So if you had that time, spend those times, talk about those ones. Directive, we understand. We know the impact of when we award contract and it's all about dollars. And like you said, if you go to other places, you rent a house, you pay dollars. And for me, I will never in any way will want anyone to do that.
Were you looking to see or hear like some allocation, budgetary allocation for these projects that you mentioned? But that happened in the actual budgets that they gave us somewhere in March. This is a mid-year budget review. And in fact, I think that what most people were expecting was whether or not we needed a supplementary budget, and that didn't come up. So what you're asking for, the allocations you're asking for, I think they already did that, no?
The major budget...
Especially... Okay, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Make it.
I mean, for the big push, which I think was the government's flagship program, or what they think is their unique selling proposition, they spent some time expatiating on, you know, the specifics. Or it was just not to your satisfaction. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. That's why I'm staying on this point.
That is all right.
Yeah.
You know, you and I, we want things that will better our lives. I keep saying, I'm on record to have said, our common enemy is poverty.
Well, I can't disagree on that.
It's poverty. Okay. That's all.
Okay. So
when you are coming out with initiatives and policies, come out with those ones that will transform my life. Okay. If you direct the entire nation that when you're going to award contracts, do it in cities. Perfect. But I'm saying that when you get that platform, because that thing can be implemented from the top down, there's no problem. So spend time, give us the timelines, go through the documents, and look at the key initiatives, about 12 that were stated in the budget, the previous budget. So when you get a point to give us an update, half year, the policy adjustment, the snapshot of financial fiscal performance, tell us where you've got it. Go and look at those initiatives, the highlights we got. And you'll be shocked that if you have a time, you don't spend talking about those things, but rather give us where you are getting funding and timelines to implement your project.
All right. So, Dr. Asha, what about you? Were you satisfied with the way they expended the time they had on the
they have to say what they have to say. But but
I think the main topic though is the government ditching foreign currency.
That's right. That's right. Again, our common enemy is disconnection between what is done at the governmental level and at the local level. It's easy to say you're going to award contracts and it's going to be denominated in CD. And that's the public sector. How about the private sector? So much disconnection between what goes on in government, in the formal sector, and the informal sector. As it stands, everybody knows that you cannot get dollars if you go to the bank. It's public knowledge. I don't know what anybody is doing about that. And you can only get it from the side, the roadside. Now, so you can say these things, you know, as in the same way you can say all other things, you know, like rent control. You can say that you can only pay 6 months in rent by law. But what's happening on the ground has to be investigated and has to be enforced. So unless you're leaving out the private sector and you're focusing just on the public sector, and a lot of government contracts are awarded to multinational companies, they come in and they're going to still ask you for dollars anyway. So one has to check to make sure that local indigenous business people are able to follow these things that we're saying at the governmental level. Otherwise, there's no point making these edicts, you know, on the budget and saying that, you know, denominated in dollars and so on, because it's just not going to filter down to the ordinary man.
Okay.
You go to the bank now to get dollars, you're limited to $10,000, but that's if you have a visa ready to travel outside of the country. And you know for a fact that if you go over to the abochi on the side of the road, you can get the dollars, and it's not at the dollar rate of circa 10.50 or 10.30. It's going in some places you get it at $14, 14 cedis.
Really?
Well, if you're desperate, it's demand and supply, and you have to pay what you have to pay to get it. So unless
we cannot independently verify that.
Well, of course you can't independently verify anything from the abochi. You don't expect to be able to verify anything. This is an informal.
The grounds, and I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can take you to Tudu, right? Yeah. And then you can. I mean, if you're an importer and you need $100,000, and your partners are waiting for you to send the money, you're not exactly in a position of strength to say that, look, I'm going to pay 10 CD 50 pesos for a dollar because that's what the Bank of Ghana says. You're going to have to pay what you have to pay to be able to get what you have to get to be able to do your business. So we need to, perhaps it's an issue of enforcement, where we enforce these things that are made, these laws that are passed, or these directives that are given by the government. Otherwise, it's just not going to really filter down onto the ground.
All right.
Now, another point I quickly want to make is that it's been a few months since this dollar was stabilized the way it was.
The CD, you mean?
Sorry, the CD. And there's a reason why people didn't have confidence in the CD. It was because it was unstable. And stability should not be judged in 3 months or 4 months. You need to wait to see how stable it gets first. It's all well and good, we're making progress, but you see, people are still gonna have the phobia they have against the CD because of history, all right? History has to be erased with facts. So we need to bide our time and see how far it goes. And then naturally, people will have confidence in it. Confidence comes naturally. You can't enforce it by directives.
Okay. I want us to move away from the budget and do some other stories. But, Prof, I saw you making some notes, and I want to give you a minute to...
Yes,
conclude.
I just want to react to some statements that are made here. If you want dollars for legitimate business, you will get it. That's if you rightly, Dr. Asha rightly said, if you go to the banks and you have a proven case that you want to travel, you need dollars, you will get up to 10,000. If you go and you want to transact business electronically and pay for whatever you are buying abroad with dollars, Ghana has enough dollars to guarantee that transaction. We won't just give you dollars to go and keep in your house and then drive the CD up or to take it, go sell to aboches. That is a different ball game altogether. And as far as we are concerned, I will continue to support that tightening policy, that we don't have to recklessly dissipate our reserves on people who want to store dollars in their
What you're saying is that there's no shortage
of
dollars.
Shortage of dollars. It's just stricter measures. Anyone who wants dollars through a legitimate means for a legitimate business will get them. And no one has hidden that. I'm also surprised at Prof Boadi's demands on the Honorable Kaslia to forcing yesterday. He is the one who just said the minister outlined a whole 8 pages of what happened in the past. And yet he's demanding that the minister provide statistics and data for why we are insolvent. I cannot imagine how difficult it is to provide all that data and not increase the number of pages that he was talking about. But insolvency, what is insolvency? If you accumulated 67 billion in arrears, if you accumulated 5.2% of our GDP over 4 years, insolvency is the fact that your debts far outweigh your assets and you are no longer actually seen to be economically viable. If you looked at our international debts alone, we're looking at over 11 billion. So all those things pointed to the fact that we are insolvent. If that cannot convince anybody that this is insolvency, writing 10 pages wouldn't. The IMF did it, the World Bank did it, and we have always run to them to interpret what the true state of our economy is. But if they say we are insolvent, then you think that we can't rely on that. I think that that double standard, we shouldn't allow it to stand. We can't demand that he keeps a brief budget at the same time say he should provide data for why we are insolvent when it was all out there. That is the most evident thing that you could associate with our economy coming into 2024, and I can't believe that we want the minister to spend time convincing us that we're actually insolvent.
So what he said was the indebtedness of the government had culminated into state insolvency.
Yeah.
Prof, you've just heard what Professor Ayamga has to say in response to that. 1 minute.
Well, Sidi, today we are talking about this. The debt we are talking about, when did they start? When they were leaving office, how much did they leave? That will not start today or tomorrow.
10 billion.
It's accumulation over a period of time.
Relatively, they left
10 billion. 10 billion.
a lower debt.
50-something billion.
It's accumulation over a period of time that you have this. So it's a very simple thing. Once you tell someone is an insolvent, unable to sustain and make payment, fine. But tell us, give a cross-reference. How many minutes will it take you to just provide the data?
All right. So thank you. Let's move on to other stories. So while we sort of chastised the minority for leaving Parliament, their petition on electoral violence and illegal mining is still a very good call. And galamsey, or illegal mining, is still an existential crisis. And I'm glad we have the Deputy CEO of Environmental Protection Authority here. I think on Monday or Tuesday, one of those days, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources took his turn at the Government Accountability Series, where he expatiated on what they're doing to curb illegal mining. It was a whole comprehensive presser. But I want to stay on illegal mining because it looks like they're doing so much. And we seem to want to say or sell the narrative that things are changing, but our water bodies are not clearing up. Not yet. I don't know about Ghana Water, whether the turbidity level they have to deal with is still the same. Last time I checked, it was around 14-something NTU. So you sit at the helm of, this is right in your purview. How would you assess the work that we are doing as a people? This is not NDC and PP matter. This is us as a nation. Do you think we are actually, is there an end in sight?
Yes, thank you, Sweetie. I'm happy you rightly put it into context. And for many of us that joined this fight, the president knew very well that taking us right from academics into this, you're not going to have out-and-out politicians dealing with it. And they know definitely if the calls came to some of us that we should let people work, we wouldn't. So the president, by actually bringing on board my boss, Nana Ama Brown Kluche, Prof, good morning, wherever you are, and myself, know very well what they were getting into. Yeah. And we have been very resolute in these issues. Whether you are from the MPP or the NDC, fortunately, I don't know many of them. So it's something that I want us to move away from the politics. It is sickening and disheartening to watch images. And when I was going to the EPA, I had a discussion with my son, and he asked me where I was going. He's 8. And he told me that if I'm actually coming to help save the environment, then I can go. So as I sit here, I am indebted to my kid that if I cannot point next year to him that this is what I have done, then I have a problem. So we all understand that. But let's look at it this way. It is a cat and mouse game. You see, when you just say galamsey, I said yesterday on this same platform that there are two sides to the story. You have legal mining going on, sometimes veering into illegal mines, illegal activities. That falls within our purview. And we are increasingly tightening the boats. Initially, we didn't want to put a task force out there because sometimes they easily go rogue. You can't go enforcing this thing without security agencies and military and police. And I'm a civilian. Sometimes they go in there and they can do things. So if you put a task force out there, you must be able to police it. So it's not an issue of task force. It's not also an issue of militarizing the whole operation. Because right now, if they go and shoot 3, 4 people here, the same minority will be on the streets that bring them to justice. So it's an issue of us reforming first our legal framework. And I keep calling that we need environmental courts. Courts that would judicially and expedite actions on people that we arrest so that you don't have to keep them for 48 hours and release them. You don't have to take them to our courts that are largely determined by some legal framework and the rights to come in and these people work. We need judges that are more oriented towards this environmental protection. So
what are you doing in that regard? I mean, we've had so many thousands of arrests.
Of course, when you are talking of legal framework.
Yeah, no prosecution. And I know it doesn't fall. This is for Ghana Police Service to prosecute these people who have been arrested. But how are you escalating, or how are you trying to amplify that call for these prosecutions so that it also serves as a deterrent to other people who are still entering our forest reserves and mining on our water bodies? If
you are talking of legal, then you are talking about legislation. So we are tightening our laws. As I speak, this year alone, we have just taken 5 legislations to Parliament to give us enough leverage to prosecute people that engage in various environmental violations. Once the laws are comprehensive enough, it's very difficult for somebody to escape the loop. What I also think is that communities have to be very honest with us. You see, if you go right now and take just a piece of land anywhere, the owners will show up. So it is strange that this scale of destruction goes on and the communities do nothing about it. There's always some level of complacency and collusion The only time you see people coming to report is when a partnership goes sour and they are no longer getting their fair share of the thing.
Right.
Then they want to use law enforcement. There are places I've seen overnight, they just cause massive distraction. And by the time you get there, communities and villages hide these people. So it is not an issue of just law enforcement and authorities. It has to be a comprehensive thing. People must get to the point that they understand that this is just a silent killer that will destroy us in the near future, and we'll all put our hands on deck. The excessive politicization of the issue is sickening, and it doesn't allow for any serious and concerted effort towards solving this problem. This color of this water is neither the NDC color or the MPP colors. That is what we need to look at and then deal with it. Not that I have arrested an NDPP person or an NDC person and then it is a political ping pong, which I sometimes get disheartened and disillusioned about.
Thank you. So Dr. Asha and Professor Boadi, feel free to reflect on Galamsey when I get to you, but I want to get into your papers now. Let's start with the daily guide.
The daily
you want
guide,
to talk, I mean, you want to reflect, it's linked to it.
Yeah,
okay, let's get into it.
Apologies for, that's the daily guide. On the front page, we have a story on page 3. That's apologies for peddling cathedral lies. That's by Charles Owusu Joanna. So, minority boycott budget over Blekuma Galamsey. So that features here. That's on page 3. Small-scale gold export double, value triples. And that's on page 6. And then we have a story on VAT reform bill to scrap COVID levy. That's by the Minister of Finance yesterday on page 6. And the public debt down by 113.7 billion. And that's by Toforsen. But let me come back to the first story here, which is minority boycott budget over Blekuma and Galamsey. 2 issues.
For the purpose of this conversation, can we call it illegal mining instead of Galamsey?
Yeah, illegal mining. But I was happy when Prof expressed his concern. The color of that water we saw. It's not the color of NDC or MPP. And I'm happy. But at a point in time, we must all sing the same song. What is wrong is wrong. But we should remember, Prof, administration was overthrown because of Galamsey, remember? The whole UTAG body almost divided because of Galamsey fights.
Oh, okay.
So several administration, and this cannot be something you should watch, this administration, because if you don't take care, this same issue can get you out of power. Because now the city, all of us, we are aware of what is happening. And from where he sits as the pinnacle of environmental issues, you handle a lot of these issues in the office. If you want a proper statistics to show we have a problem, then you should find out in the budget, which happily the Minister of Finance did yesterday. Go and check sectorial performance. GDP will not come from the sky. No. There are other factors that will fuel the GDP. We have the agri sector, we have the service sector, we have the manufacturing sector. These 3 sectors or individuals, sectors also fuel your GDP for you. And look at the figure he gave in the agri sector. And that should support what we are talking about, that is a problem. Agricultural sector, fishing increased 16.4%, crops 6.7%, livestock 5.6%. It showed strong growth. Let's look at forestry and logging. Contracted significantly at negative 2.5. So it cements what we are talking about. When you have this, it suggests declining logging activities, then the environmental issues that we are talking about. And that will tie into what I said. We shouldn't spend more time in talking about those things I said earlier on. The minister could not tell us any policy narrative to address this yesterday? Go and check the document. Once you tell us a problem and you give us the statistics to support your argument, finito. The next thing you need to give is to give us policy narrative. How are you going to do this? If we all come and sit here this morning and we lament and we talk, me, I don't have power. I don't have power. You have. We implement the law. Yes, the law will be passed. It's passed. Oh, we arrest this. We put the person in jail. Yes. What else again? We'll be talking about this every day and we'll not have a solution to the problem. So I think we need to move beyond these statements that we know it's a problem, it's a canker, it's affecting everybody. But what are we doing? If you want to inaugurate these water body players or those who were commissioned to go into the forest, where are they? Tell us the number now. How much are we paying them every month? They should show us what they have done. I don't know, 3 months ago. We don't know.
You want a more quantitative assessment than the quality.
Just like the minister indicated. He showed us the logging and forest.
And percentage.
I'm not rejecting, but the Lands and Natural Resource Minister gave a comprehensive rundown of this. If you expected the Honorable Kasera to force him to take that also into a budget, then we would have still been sitting in Parliament now listening to the budget. Please.
No. But how many
minutes will it take? He's saying that it was to review the media. It's a media budget review.
Media budget to say whether you need more money or not, you stay within your targets.
It's a media budget review.
Yeah. We are economists. We know this.
But when you're talking about review and you're doing policy adjustment, you know what they did to the expenditure and the revenue? That one you had time to talk about. But how to address this, man, you can't have time to talk about.
Okay, so that's your time. Dr. Asha, I want to hear your thoughts on this illegal mining money. Is this the first time I'll be hearing you say anything at all on this matter?
It's a canker.
Yeah, and I'm sure you observed from NPP's time till now, so let's hear you.
Yes, it is a shame. It is a real shame that we are that reckless as a people. And it's just not in illegal mining. It's all over the country, in all kinds of places. I mean, I've been looking at the driving. There's one headline here about accidents. We have, the last time I checked, we have 3 million cars on Ghanaian roads. And yet, and the United Kingdom has 30 million cars. And yet, pound for pound, we far exceed them in terms of the number of casualties on the road. You know, and it's the same kind of thing that's going throughout every facet of Ghanaian society. You have people that are brazen enough to come on TV or on video to say that we're not going to stop this. Come here, let's fight. There's a canker in the Ghanaian spirit that likes to talk about generalities at the macro level, but then when it comes to the micro individual disciplinary level, they don't. You know, just do anything they want. You know, they'll say, let's stop corruption, and yet, when you need a job, you go and see your uncle to say, please, can you sort of fix me somewhere? Forgetting that that's exactly what you're doing. So it's a menace, we all know this. And Prof said that it's not, well, it is an issue of enforcement, like anything else. I disagree that the task force shouldn't be sent. If we have no confidence in law enforcement, then we're doomed as a country. So we're sending people into the forests to sort these things out, and they're colluding with these people. Well, in that case, then there's nothing else we can do. And yes, of course, if you go into the mining areas and somebody's doing illegal mining and you shoot them, and as the honourable gentleman said, that there's going to be a demonstration from the minority to say there should be a probe. Of course, there should be a probe. Probes are in line with democratic values. So it's fine, it's fair enough. Because you don't want the security forces to run amok, because we know that they do sometimes. So It's a menace. It's something that impacts all of us, regardless of the hue of the party from which you come from. And we must all put, and I think that it must start at the micro individual level. Perhaps we should be considering introducing something in the curriculum at primary schools. Most of these things, I think, have to be started from the primary school level. In Japan, what happens in Japan is that if you're going to primary school in Japan, you take a bin with you. It's part of the things you have to take. So when you shave your pencil, you collect it and put it in your bin and take it home. By the time you're 15, it's so ingrained in your spirit that you don't need law enforcement to tell you to take your rubbish away. And in the last World Cup, the Japanese cleaned up all the stand after.
Nobody told them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've got to go to the primary school level, I think, and you've got to make it part of the curriculum, or even in the secondary school level. I mean, 2 years ago, I was suggesting that we should introduce corruption as a compulsory course that has to be passed before you progress.
While I'm completely sold on this suggestion, I also think that where we are right now, the solution is not going to start in primary and.
Well, you have to start from somewhere.
So, as we speak, what do you think?
Law enforcement.
Right, law enforcement.
That's the only way.
You don't think that we are enforcing? Do you think the laws are adequate enough to?
Oh, we have more than enough laws.
So it's just about the enforcement.
Absolutely, yes,
okay.
And the honesty of the law enforcement machine.
Okay, all right. So let's get into your paper. Which one do you have?
I have the Daily Gist, and it outlines that the government dodges COVID-19 levy, amongst other things. And then there's also the Galamsey issue that apparently has taken over the president's hometown. So that's coming close to the president himself. There's also the Allocation North NDC goons are smoked out. This has particular interest to me. Because it's a bane on our politics. I must be fair. 8 years ago, we saw this on TV. Mr. Sam George was brutally assaulted. And I saw on TV, and I was disgusted that could happen to a sitting member of parliament. Unfortunately, the chickens have come home to roost, which is a shame, again. But it tells you the cycle that the body politique is experiencing because of the way we do things. So well, and I've heard people justify it. I'm not justifying it because it happened to Sam George. It's justified that it has happened here. But the point is that it has to stop somewhere.
What do you think it takes? Electoral violence?
Well, it takes civilization.
It looks like that's how we know to do elections.
You have to be civilized enough not to resort to physical violence every time you have a disagreement with somebody.
I think people change when they either hear enough that they want to change, they experience something tragic that they want to change, or they are forced, something really drastic happens that they have to change. In this case, when we're talking about electoral violence, Ghana, what do you think? Because I think we've heard enough. If we really wanted to change, we would. If people wanted to stop the thuggery and bring in pugilists to intimidate people during election time, I think if we'd had enough and wanted to change, we would. But as we sit here, how do we ensure that, you are a political analyst, so tell us, how do we ensure that the next by-election in Akutia, staring us in the face, does not result in another, fisticuffs and exchange of blows here and there? Well,
the leaders have to speak to their followers. They have to be unequivocal.
Will they listen? What more are they going to say?
Well, they have to. So we're looking at this moment. It says that these people have been smoked out. Okay? So that's enforcement to say, and I think, to be honest, if I was the president, I would have come out to say, condemn it completely. There's a very loud silence from that part of the government on this. I don't know why, but because we know history has repeated itself. And if it's not smoked out, it's going to repeat itself. So we have to ensure that the consequences of violence far outweighs the benefits.
Okay, thank you. Ohayamga,
yes,
I want to run the election violence situation by you and what you make of it. This is not the first time this issue has come up, but I also know that some people have been arrested. As of yesterday or so, I read somewhere that some people have been picked up and they will be facing justice. What do you think? Where do we begin to unravel this deep-seated violence in us when it comes to election? Because I think it's just as a people now we expect it.
Sweetie, the issue is, let me say, a convoluted one, that most of the time we allow this thing to go on because maybe one political party is a beneficiary at a point in time and the other one is at the receiving end. And that's why that vicious cycle keeps going. And what you just said is the solution to it, that some people must account for their actions on election day, regardless of the party they belong to. That is how we bring an end to this. I, sitting here, see a lot of hypocrisy because one of my players from Yankwala Shooting Stars, who got shot on election day and lost his life, I have not seen anybody. And I sit here emotional and I feel painful about it because the young man was in my office not long ago to just get balls for his club. And the next time I learned, he was shot down, and the same minority didn't see the need to even call for any action. Somebody got head battered, and you think that I should sit here and say I regret that Hawa Kumsun went into a polling station in an election that they said they were not taking part. What do you want there then? So I agree that we have to deal with the situation. Anyone that goes into an polling station to cause violence must be dealt with. And that is the step in the right direction. But I'm saying that this is just some violence, some fist clubs. We are talking about people who have lost their lives. And in 8 years, some people sat in government for people to lose their lives, and they did nothing. They stayed in parliament, had the joy of going to bring sick people to pass e-levy and then do party over it. Once people have died and you never left parliament, somebody go ahead battered. I'm a realist. I don't cry over this. That you now think that you don't deserve to, you won't sit in the budget because somebody who has also been maybe a principal actor in electoral violence got karma coming at her, and you think that we should worry. Yes, I worry about the violence. I worry about the violence, but not the Ablekumanov. Let's separate the issues here. People have lost their lives. And who has talked about them since this government started? I mean, did the Honorable Afenyo Markin and his team in Parliament forgot that people lost their lives?
But, Prof, does it help that President Mahama is strangely silent about this?
President Mahama is not silent. The arrest, if President Mahama was silent, there won't be any arrest. I wish we could see this happening in the past. If there were arrests and people had to account for it, somebody will know that even though your government is in power, if you go and commit electoral violence, the law enforcement will come knocking at your door.
Now
and you
have
have
to play
questions.
the devil's advocate.
Yes. Yeah, play.
When things happen in this country, President Mahama has a nice way of injecting some humor into it. When there was that dollar situation between Sami Jemfi and Mama Pat, President Mahama found a way to speak about it. There are so many things that you'd expect that you thought that a president that was, not really come to his attention. You find a way to say something about it. For us to go and rerun elections in 19 polling stations and result in this, despicable, display of violence that we saw, I think that the president ought to have said something by now.
Yeah, that's actually a devil's advocate because
but I mean, you get the import of
the
what I'm trying to say.
The president's silence speaks a lot.
This is more than
the
dollars.
President's silence speaks a lot. Sometimes you just have to keep quiet and allow people to face the music. Yeah, the president could have come to say, okay, we'll investigate it and then the culprits will be brought to book and nothing happened. Is that what you want to see, or you want to see the arrest that you are talking about here? I prefer the latter. The president can keep quiet as long as he wants. If people keep getting arrested and they face accountability, they have to face the law for their actions. I don't mind the president not speaking. We had a president that spoke always and nothing was happening in this country. So I want a president that works, not a president that speaks. So if it is the president you want to speak, it's in Jubilee House. You're a journalist. You can go there and...
Prof Boadi, I know you want to respond to that.
I know where you sit. Very difficult seat for to sit there and ask all of us questions.
It's okay.
But the point is that I will not blame Honorable. I will not blame NDC. I'll not blame anybody. I'll blame those people who have allowed themselves to be used for such activities. Okay. I'll blame those people. How many of those kids happen to come from Honorable's family? The president's family. I blame those people. If, Prof, you have a son, a daughter, and is involved in such a thing, what would you say? Today is fine. Let's happen to one of your family members. Then you understand what we are talking about. A group of people unmasked tell the whole world, sit in a truck, I did this to this person. I went and beat her. I did that. How many days now? It took, in all of social media, we can see the pictures of those people. They are quiet. On our budget. The next day, it will be the former minister's son or daughter. It will be the president. An honorable family. I mean, it can happen. Who knows? So when they are coming for those people, they should question them. Why not bring your child to be part of these brutalities? Mm-hmm. They should ask them. Mm-hmm.
You know, the answer lies in something you said earlier, that our common enemy is poverty. So these people are offered peanuts to risk their lives for political gains. And you are not the one who even stands to benefit, you see. It's the mindset, unfortunately.
Well, something must be done. But if these people are not caught, and the people in Ablekuma, other places, are not protected, then where are we?
Okay.
My issue was on the COVID, the
COVID-19 levy, yeah.
Look.
That's from the Daily Gist, I guess.
That's right, okay. Yes, it is.
We have scrapped some taxes, this administration, when they took over. Yeah. Some taxes. They have introduced almost about 4 in addition or so. They've introduced the increase rate for 15% increase in non-life insurance. We have electricity, which a quarterly we get. And then we have something on D-levy. So when you take some and you bring additional ones.
You talk of the net.
Talk of the net. We can get the net for you very soon. Down 0.
No, it's not 0.
So what is happening? What is happening? That was what you were what is happening to COVID-19 levy? You said it in your manifesto. You scrap it, nuisance. And check the percentage of that amount. The percentage of COVID levy. That one, you've left it. And I was thinking that this was going to be captured in the budget, the review, silently. We'll do something. What have they give?
Okay, so my time is almost out, but Prof, you said it's not 0, so what is it?
It's not 0. You are talking about a fuel levy, and you need to look at the dynamics here. You took a gallon or a liter of petrol from 17 down to 11, 12, and we say, because we owe so much, let's take 1 cedi back so that we can pay down our debt. I believe that if you look at what happened in Ghana in the past, there were 3 things. Reckless borrowing, the energy sector debt, and the banking sector cleanup to the tune of 2 billion. These were the 3 demons that plagued Ghana. And any government that runs away from the energy sector crisis, it doesn't matter what you do, it will come back to erode everything. And that is why you are trying to whip up sentiments against this levy, and you are not getting it on the streets, because many Ghanaians are seeing that giving us even 6 cedis and taking back 1 cedi just to pay our debts is not a bad thing. That is just in the energy sector. So let's look at it this way. I want to hear discourses that surrounds how do we use that 1 cedi? How can we track the extent to which that levy we are paying is contributing to a reduction in the energy sector debt, and how we are managing that debt? That is the discourse I want to engage in. But if you look at the taxes that we have taken away and the ones we have introduced, you can't directly say that Ghanaians are worse off. Plus, there is increasing improvement in our purchasing power occasioned by the declining strength of the dollar.
Check the food inflation.
food inflation, of course, inflation, if you want to talk of inflation in general, inflation dropped from 23.4 or 7% to 13.7. You can't tell me that that hasn't eased the burden on people. And I'm saying that there's some purchasing power in the economy. What we need to do is to re-engineer the system so that that purchasing power inures to the benefit of the locally owned productive sectors like Dr. Asha was mentioning, so that we don't go back to square one. But I don't want us to try to whip up sentiments around taxes and other things when indeed the tax burden of the Ghanaian businessman and the Ghanaian public servant and the Ghanaian worker in general is much, much better now than it was in the last 6-7 years. That is something we cannot run away from.
But Prof, can I just quickly ask on the back of that? What was the motivation for scrapping the e-levy, for example, and then introducing the energy levy? I mean, it goes in the same pot.
No, you see,
it's still government coffers. So I'm just trying to understand that it's not just about the aesthetics of it, that I said I was going to scrap something, so I've scrapped it. The point is that you need money as a government to operate. So if there's an existing tax regime that brings in that money, and you scrap it, and then you bring in another one, which has...
Before the optics?
Yeah, exactly. I wonder.
As I rightly indicated, and I'm saying rightly, just praising myself, before you impose taxes, you look at the effect of the taxes and the general conditions of living, whether first people can be able to shoulder those taxes. First, the cost of living occasioned by high transportation costs, rising dollar and other things had improved. So the environment was more conducive at least to even increase taxes. But this is not a tax we increase, we just put a levy of 1 cedi. It's a flat rate. And what we are saying is that the e-levy was hitting hard on vulnerable segments of society. Old ladies who were receiving and sending something as much as...
Anything below 100 cedis was exempted.
If you buy food, it translates across.
No, you see, the effects are...
It filters down, I think.
The same. The effects are not the same. And what we are saying is, no, it's not the same. We are looking at people who could not take more than 100 cedis and they get taxed. And that one was actually a rate.
No, anything below 100 cedis was tax-free, was exempted.
It's not the same as a 1%. And that is what is being peddled out there.
Don't say it's just a cedi.
It's a cedi.
All right.
It is a cedi per liter.
That is what the food inflation is going up.
That's all that time will allow us. And unfortunately, we can't get into the overseer, but all the stories there we've already discussed, right? Like we saved. Please just give me the stories on the head.
They are basically on the economy. Okay. We have saved 4.9 billion on interest payments, which is something that Prof didn't talk about. BOSS signs MOU to strengthen Ghana's downstream sector. Of course, Sami Jemfi suing Fia Schwarzenegger. And my body, good morning, Honorable Minister John Junapur, wherever you are, saying that there's no aviation fuel shortage in Ghana. Yes, those are largely at the front page. But what I want to take home is in the middle. In the middle.
So we have to go. If it's just a headline,
it's just a headline. Yeah, the big push agenda, over 32 programs that are being brought back. I felt this is something that we need to praise the government and thank them.
Okay, so that there is Professor Michael Ayamga. He's Deputy CEO of the Environmental Protection Authority and also an applied economist. We also had Professor Isaac Boadi. He's Dean at Faculty of Accounting and Finance, UPSA, and Dr. Bernie Asha, political analyst and also a lecturer at UPSA. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having breakfast with me. All right, so stay with me. We'll take a break. But before I go, you want to make your dream home a reality with EcoBank. I'm inviting you to step into your ideal home or transform your current space into one that truly reflects your style and comfort, all with the support from EcoBank. EcoBank has once again partnered with Joy News to bring you an exciting experience at the EcoBank Joy News Habitat Fair. This year's edition makes your journey to a comfortable, modern home even more accessible and affordable. With EcoBank's Buy Now, Pay Later, you can easily renovate, upgrade, or furnish your home to suit your taste and lifestyle. Whether it's elegant home decor, modern furniture, essential electronics like laptops or phones, or even solar energy solutions, EcoBank has the right financing tailored to your lifestyle. From staying connected with the latest devices to embracing sustainable living, our flexible consumer loans, asset finance, and salary advance products are all designed to help you bring your vision to life. Enjoy competitive interest rates, convenient repayment terms, and fast approvals from a bank that really understands your needs. Visit our stand and take the first step towards the home and lifestyle you deserve. Comfortable home starts with EcoBank. Be a part of it. EcoBank, the Pan-African bank. Stay with me. I'll be back with the big stories.